"Where are you going, Bellatrix? Return forthwith and account for yourself." Mistress Adria, the castle's chief maid, called out behind me. I cast a frantic glance over my shoulder. "Hush," I replied, my voice low and hurried. "It is my day of rest. I am at liberty to spend it as I choose. I shall return before sunset." Gathering my skirts in both hands, I hastened my pace, fleeing the grey stone of the castle for the sheltering woods. The sun had scarcely cleared the horizon. Since winter had only just commenced, the pale orb offered little warmth. I hurried toward the coastline, feeling a genuine rush of joy as I followed my heart's desire, to spend the day immersed in the wild, my only true sanctuary. "What a magnificent day to be here, beside the shimmering sea," I whispered, inhaling the brisk air and the scent of mist and wet shingle. I located a small clearing where the ancient trees met the ocean's edge. Gazing out toward the horizon, I immediately beheld a strangeness. The waves were not cresting and breaking as they normally did. Instead, the incoming swells appeared to cross and clash violently against one another, creating sharp, unnatural, chaotic peaks. The sheer, unsettling turbulence of the sea disturbed my resolve. Yielding to the quiet, I sank onto the cold earth and began to breathe with the stillness. After the passing of a few prayers, the tumultuous sounds receded. A profound sense of lightness settled over me, a ghostly quickening I did not yet have a name for. My ears grew keen, birds chirped, leaves rustled softly. Then, a distinct crackle. I slowly opened one eye to locate the source. The sight caused my eyes to fly open completely. I shot to my feet, freezing in place. Directly before me stood a figure, a man, standing the height of two common men, stacked one upon the other. He stood a few paces distant, and his impossible presence triggered a primal alarm. He had long, dark pitch hair and almond-shaped eyes that tilted with the ruthless grace of a hunting hawk. Without breaking my gaze, I instinctively reached for my satchel and prepared for flight. In that instant, the strange figure began to dissipate. I perceived the residual effect of swirling rent closing in circular movements, just as if a stone had disturbed a still lake. What in the world was that? I wondered, slumping down as I struggled to comprehend the utter unreason of the event. The image of the man was etched into my memory. His sheer vastness defied all earthly sense. His height appeared to distort the very air surrounding him. He was slender, his limbs impossibly elongated and elegantly shapen. His face proved the most unnerving feature, pale and utterly expressionless. He had remained motionless, yet he appeared as startled as I was, as if questioning my ability to perceive him, until the spinning circular light of the closing breach, in the space of a breath, swallowed the vision. The woods now felt impossibly distant and strange. Overwhelmed, I turned to flee toward the castle, but as I crested the final ridge of dunes, I cast one final look back at the tumultuous sea. The waves had reached a fever pitch of unnatural violence, boiling white as if a great fire had been lit beneath the depths. Then the water exploded, a great rounded shape, forged of a substance as white and radiant as a bleached skull in the noon sun, rose silently from the churning foam. It was a massive, seamless plate, longer than the reach of 3 war galleys. No mast, no oars, and no sail adorned its curved, pale hull, yet it shed the sea like a rising sun. I fell back onto the sand, my breath stolen by a terror that felt like a blow to the chest. With a sudden, low thrum that shook the marrow in my bones, the great vessel surged. It did not climb the wind as a bird does, it simply claimed the sky, moving with such unnatural, blinding swiftness that it left a shimmering wake in the air. Within a heartbeat, it was but a speck against the pale sun. I hauled myself to my feet, my legs trembling so violently I nearly collapsed, and sprinted toward the distant grey battlements of the castle. I had barely crossed the second courtyard when I collided with Mistress Adria. She was burdened by a considerable pile of dry linens, her face a mask of exhaustion. "Bellatrix," she uttered, her voice hushed. "I assumed you wouldn't return until dusk." She studied my features intently. "You appear quite unwell. Tell me, have you encountered a spectre, or has the steward at last refused to render the month's coin?" I felt the confession. I saw an unfleshed being pass through a curtain of air, catch in my throat. Icy dread seized me. To be branded the mad woman in the castle was a fate far worse than a simple lashing. It meant the immediate suspicion of witchcraft. "Nothing of consequence," I managed. I refused to meet her gaze, focusing instead on the linens. "It is merely the cold. The winter berries were not ripe, and so I returned before the day was." "It is merely the cold. The winter berries were not ripe, and so I returned before the day was wasted." Mistress Adria narrowed her eyes, recognizing the signs of genuine terror. "Your day of liberty is yours, Bellatrix," she stated, her voice hardening slightly to remind me of my station. "Yet, if you find the need to speak, you know my chamber is open. Now, move quickly. The steward is searching for someone to mend his cloak. Should he find you unoccupied, he'll compel you to the task." "Yes, Mistress Adria." I separated from her instantly, moving toward the servants' quarter, but I ran directly into the steward. Master Diego was a large man governed by a strict, almost religious adherence to practical order. "Bellatrix," he stated, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. "I trust your release from toil is proving fruitful. His Majesty does not grant us bread to waste sunlight. Diligence is the highest virtue in the service of this house." "Yes, Master Diego," I replied. "I was just heading to the woodpile to feed the hearth," I lied. The steward's dark eyes narrowed. "Your wits are wandering, girl. A straying mind makes a careless hand, and I will not tolerate a frayed edge in this house." "I understand," I whispered. I understood his meaning well. To Master Diego, I was but a single thread in the castle's tapestry. If I were to unravel with secrets or hidden fears, he would not hesitate to snip me away. I hurried away to the woodpile. The coarse bark of the logs offered a familiar roughness to my hands. The courtyard was quiet. I forced myself to cling to the rhythmic task of stacking, letting the toil of my hands drown out the steward's warning. Just as I bent to lift a heavy piece of oak, a sudden flicker of light captured the edge of my sight. It was not the reflection of the morning sun. It was far too sharp, too singularly bright. I instantly froze, my muscles locking mid-motion. Every sense screamed a warning. Suspended in the air, barely above my head, hung a small, perfect sphere of pure white light. It pulsed once, a slow, gentle beat, yet its presence felt profoundly unnatural against the grey stone of the yard. It possessed none of the warmth of fire or the soft diffusion of a lamp. It was light perfectly contained, absolute and impossibly cold. As it hovered, turning its gaze like a single unfleshed eye, a wave of paralyzing frost engulfed me. My body seized. I could not shift my feet from the dirt, nor drop the heavy oak log, nor even blink. I stood as a statue of fear, the world reduced entirely to the slow pulse of that silent, judging light. The searching flame began to move. It drifted silently, tracing a perfect circle around my immobilized form. I felt the light sweep across my face, down my outstretched arm and over my spine. The sensation was invasive, as though the light itself possessed a touch that could explore the very depths of my being. It completed its circuit and halted directly before me. For one terrible moment, the scent of wood and earth vanished. My senses withered. A hollow silence claimed me. I was plunged into the hallowed void, a world without substance. A voice began to etch words upon the canvas of my mind, speaking with imperious clarity. "Enter this domain of shadow and ghost light with us. The world of flesh is merely an imperfect shadow of true reality. It is within the in-between that genuine life resides. All that takes shape upon the terrestrial crust of your earth finds its true form here. Unable to move, I began a silent prayer. As I finished, I sensed an entity approaching. In this world without matter, recognition was instant and pure. This was the being from the forest breach. He regarded me with a serene smile, speaking directly to my mind. Set aside your fear. I shall unfold the meaning of this event to you. I am Kaxulk. We have long kept our vigil upon Morlan, the wandering moon that circles a world far beyond your horizon. You perceive this domain, Bellatrix, not through the imperfect senses of the flesh, but through your essence, your spirit echo. Spirit echo, I thought, the question echoing in the stillness. What does he mean? Kaxulk read the thought before it was fully formed. Everything possesses an inner song, a swift, eternal pulse that dictates its truth. When two essences match, they achieve a holy harmony. You recognized me instantly because your soul accord matched my own. My mind screamed against the silence. What is this impossible reality? You stand within the vessel called Zendra, Bellatrix. It is a reflection of your mind. Your earthly shell dwells guarded within the stone walls of the castle. Your initial act of perception, your capacity to witness my passage through the rent in the veil, was unexpected. Such exquisite sensitivity is rare in this age of iron, where the spirit sleeps so heavily. Your awareness shines brightly in a dim world.